Game week 12, we've got another episode of Value Hunting. If this is your first time here, do me a favor, hit that little subscribe, the notification, like the video, comment on it, do all the things to make our algorithm pop just a little bit harder than it already is. So today we're going to be diving into the projections. Shout out our friends at Momentum Labs. You can go ahead and get behind the paywall, find a link to Momentum Labs in our show notes. We're going to be looking at some projections and trying to find a handful of plays with a cap of 20 or below that's going to help us fill out our roster just a little bit. Now, we should also note it might feel like the contests get a little bit harder, even if you're in the rare streets where they're already so hard, because the in-season tournament has come to a conclusion, at least for the group stage for the tournament that So Rare has put together. So you're going to start seeing more cards be used for champion, for contender, for underdog, because that IST group has been taken away. All right, let's get started. We're going down to Dallas with our first play. It's going to be Grant Williams, who has a cap of 16. Now, Grant is somebody we played a ton the first few game weeks. I believe his cap was 10 for game week 1. Then he had, a couple of solid performances. His cap rose, projections slowed down a little bit, but Grant Williams is back in action for us right now. You can see his limited year 2 is $11. His rare is $38. Let's actually see what the difference between year 2 and year 1 are. You can see, all right, all the way down to 7. Just a quick note on year 2 versus year 1. If you didn't watch last night's episode of Shot Tank that went up with actually Jeb Bush and John Jackson and TST, we talked a lot about leveling between year 1 and year 2 when we look at these prices and the market inefficiencies. But anyways, Grant Williams is our first play here. So the Mavericks have 2 games this game weeks. One of the few teams that has 2. He's got a cap of 16 with a projection of right around 25. So Grant is somebody that slides in there. One of the issues that I run into with Grant Williams on certain game weeks is there's just games where he disappears. The good news is he's going to take a handful of threes a game, probably 5 or 6, can get you some boards, and maybe you luck into some blocks. Let's actually look at some of his recent games here and see if he's trending up or trending down, right? So we saw in game week 7 and 8, right, a 27 spot, a 30 spot, and then it's 13, 18, 10, 5. Real tough sledding for Grant recently, but brings his cap right back down. I think Grant Williams is a solid play. Again, I like leaning into, especially on these weekend slates, right, where it's only Friday, Saturday, Sunday of games, and you see a team that has 2 games. I'm going to lean into that a little bit. So I really do like Grant Williams with our first play for this game week. Now, our second play, our second guy that we're going to be looking at has now, we talked about him last week, and he's come through for the most part. We're going to light some beams, and it's Trey Lyles. Trey Lyles, what I kind of like about Trey Lyles, too, for those that weren't paying attention to the IST, the Sacramento Kings have made it to the quarterfinals of the in-season tournament. I believe they play the New Orleans Pelicans, which I would say they're favorites to then progress to Vegas, and who knows? I know So Rare has sprinkled some thoughts about maybe doing something for the semifinals and finals in Vegas for the in-season tournament. Maybe having this Trey Lyles card will come in handy. But again, that's tinfoil hat speculation. But Trey Lyles here, you can see his price went up. Not actually, it didn't. It's $2.73 for his year 2, limited, 20 for his rare. Let's actually see the differences between year 2 and year 1. We'll do this for both limited and rare. Okay, so this is like what Jeb was pointing out here. 243 you can get year 2, and then for 273 just pony up and go get year 1. Let's see the differences in rares. I wonder if that's a little bit more stark. 1677, again, US dollars, sorry for my international friends, about $3 more to jump up to his year 2 card. So Trey Lyles, let's look at his recent performances too. So just a reminder, Lyles has a cap of 15, projection just over 20. We'll say like 22 if we're feeling generous, okay? Game week 9, he had 19. Game week 10, 18. Game week 11, 20. Only 7 last night against the Clippers. But the Clippers game last night, for those, if you're just box score hunting, you're like, oh, Lyles is actually trending downwards. A couple of things happened. The Clippers got out to a huge lead. They were up like 20 or so. And the Kings decided to go super, super small. And then Fox ended up being the only guy that was able to produce. Like even Sabonis had a really good game. So I wouldn't freak out too much about this. Lyles only has 1 game that is something to consider. But again, with limited options this game week of trying to, dumpster dive, if you will, I really like this cap of 15. Oh, it says 15 right now. I believe it jumps up to 16, or was I just wrong? Nope, it is 15. So a cap of 15 with a projection of just over 20. I think you can do a lot worse than Trey Lyles. So we'll rock with Trey Lyles for number 2. Let's get on over to our third play. Our third play for game week 12. It's we're back in Dallas again, and it is Josh Green. Josh Green has not been a fun roster. He's somebody that I was really hoping was going to take a leap this year. Just, defend and knock down threes. We haven't really seen that. You can see his year 1 limited is $5.50. His year 2 is $5.73. So just go ahead and get that year 2. But our friend Josh Green, again, we've already talked about the Mavericks having 2 games, which is really nice. His cap is 14. He projects just over 20 points. So Honestly, I know we just talked about Trey Lyles, and maybe you get an extra point of ceiling, but Josh Green might be the move here. If we look at his box score, we had a 29 in game week 8, a 23 in game week 9, and then there was that 3 spot against the Clippers, and then 18 the most recently against the Rockets. I think Josh Green is fine here. I don't know if I love Josh Green if we're trying to jam him into a champion. I don't know if his ceiling is like 40, right? And that's kind of what you need if you're trying to take down a podium. But I do think he's a pretty solid contender play. Let's actually go back to his rare as well and see if there's a big price difference in that. You can see his low ask is 68. I mean, look at the difference. The rare market seems to be more in tune with the Josh Green status. So he's got a $68 for a year. Wow, look at the difference between this. So there's one for 16. Let's see how much ETH I have in there right now. 14, not enough, bro. But 16 to 30 to then 54. So if other people are on this Josh Green train, I don't know, I would go get this right now. Not financial advice, all right, or anything like that. Because we're either going to see one or two things. That price is going to skyrocket, or more people become aware, oh, shoot, I could sell my Josh Green right now. But I do like Josh Green. Again, love the idea of playing a guy on a short game week that has 2 games. Speaking of 2 games, and again, we talked about this man last week. This one makes me a little bit nervous, but you know what? Here we are. It's Derrick Rose season. John Morant's going to be back. I believe, what are they? I think he's 8 games away from returning. Derrick Rose right now has a cap of 13. His projection jumps up to 18 or so. Again, to me, this is more of a contender play. I'm not going out of my way to go get Derrick Rose, but you know, he's going to be out there. He's going to get some minutes, whatever. You know, you can do a lot worse. We could see his year 1 card is going for just under $7. We scroll down to his year 2 card. There's a lot of roses on the market, so you don't really have to worry about this jumping too much. Are there no year 2s on the market? Interesting. All right. Let's look at his most recent, his box score watching. So you see 23, 21, and then dropped a 30 piece on the Utah Jazz last night. So this is, you know what, we probably only have 1 or 2 game weeks left to roll out a Derrick Rose. So if you were thinking about playing Derrick Rose, now is the time to do it. If you're thinking about moving off of Derrick Rose, this would also be the time to do it, right? Because once Ja comes back, we get closer to Marcus Smart coming back, and then Derrick Rose becomes obsolete. Let me just double check his rare prices there. Wow, 24. And let's see if there are I don't think there's any year 2s on the market. So yeah, I could see, again, similar to what we just saw with who were we just talking about with Josh Green? I could see this market jumping up a little bit because, you know, I'm filming this early Thursday morning. I think when people start taking a peek at game week 12, we're going to see that there's not a lot of room for value, right? I mean, unless we get some injury news tonight, this is the last night of the game week, I don't see a lot of like real cheap plays. And that's why this show started, is every once in a while we would see a cap of 5 with a projection at 18. It's like, oh, you got to smash this. But I think in a lot of these situations, like you're playing these lower guys. One other Maverick that I wanted to shout out that I'm not even going to pull up is Rashawn Holmes. But Derek Lively has returned. Actually, you know what? I say that, we're going to pull up Rashawn Holmes. Derek Lively has returned to action, I believe. Let's go to manager sales here, and we'll pull up. Let's actually pull up Lively first. I want to see if he played his most recent game. I apologize for not having that information readily available, but this was a last-minute call. Lively here did come back last night, played against the Rockets, or 2 nights ago, excuse me, dropped to 23 spot. So let's look at what Holmes did with the return of Lively, because my guess is that he moves right back into that reserved role. So again, Rashawn Holmes' cap is of 9. He projects for like 13 or something. But let's go look at what his So Holmes is off the list, guys. No Rashawn Holmes. Derek Lively has returned. One other situation, though, I did want to talk about. The Atlanta Hawks lost Jalen Johnson for a considerable amount of time. It sounds like a pretty bad injury. So no Jalen Johnson. And I was trying to speculate like what the Atlanta Hawks rotation would look like. And it's kind of tough to tell because I think they've only played a game and a half since they lost Jalen Johnson. And one of them was against the Cleveland Cavaliers, their last game of the IST, and they just get smoked. So it's really hard to take away anything from it. And I think, you know, we're keen to be like, okay, well, someone will fill that role and produce similarly to Jalen Johnson. This just might make the whole Atlanta team worse. That's kind of what that looked like, at least from that Cleveland game. I'll poke around at 2 guys, and I don't have their projections readily available, so I will talk while I look that up. But we're going to bring up AJ Griffin here. And AJ Griffin used to be a cheat code at the beginning of last year, and then just kind of hasn't really progressed in the way that I think both our fantasy people and the Atlanta Hawks would like to see. So you see AJ Griffin, right? He's got a cap of 5. There's a $3 floor, a 36 for rare for year. Actually, let's look at the year one of rare, right? So his year two is 36, his year one is 25. Now, so he didn't slide into the starting lineup. We'll talk about who did, but yeah, man, dropped 1 point against the Cavs. So 8, 6, and 1. Now, all right, 1 is pretty bad. I mean, for a cap of 5, like I do think AJ Griffin could pop a little bit. And I'm not saying like 40 or anything like that, but I think if you wanted to take a cheap shot on him, now would be the time to do it, because once he does have a game, right? If like we'll talk about the second guy, Saddiq Bey, here in a second. If Saddiq Bey like struggles a little bit, or if we see that AJ Griffin's the first guy off the bench, all of a sudden he gets a score, like he has a game week this game week where he gets to 25. People are gonna be like, holy crap, 5x his cap. We got to go get AJ Griffin. So if you are someone who likes to speculate and you're like, I do think AJ Griffin is him, then maybe take a shot at it before we see that score pop. The other guy, Saddiq Bey, is the one who did slide into the starting lineup. I'm going to look up these projections too after I find this guy. Saddiq Bey, he's got a cap of 23. His floor for year one is 650. I'm sorry, for year two limited is 651. For rare year two, it's 3703. Let me just see what the difference is between year one. All right, $16 difference between that. Look at all these different teams for Saddiq Bey. So Saddiq Bey slid into the starting lineup. We saw him drop a 31 against the Cavs. I think that's a great. I think Saddiq Bey probably is a good play. I don't really love playing Saddiq because I don't think he does a lot of things besides score. And like right now, looking at his projections, he's got that cap of 23 heading into this game week, and his projections about 23. So it doesn't really scream of ceiling. We did see Saddiq Bey score 50 whole ass points, like real points last year. So we know he does have that dog in him, but it's probably not my favorite. So again, if you want to get off the board a little bit, I think you go look at AJ Griffin and just see, and then, hey, listen, it's for like $3 or whatever I said the floor was. And if it whiffs, it whiffs. But I do think he's going to be the first or second, well, behind Bogdan. He's going to be like the second guy off the bench maybe for these Atlanta games. And then who knows? DeJounte sits one game, Trey sits one game. All of a sudden, AJ's doing a little bit more. I think that's like a cheap dart throw that could pay off. So the guys that I feel a little bit more confident in, we've got Grant Williams, we have Trey Lyles, Derrick Rose, Josh Green. Those are the four, especially the two Mavericks and the Grizz, because they do have 2 games that game week. That does excite me a little bit. But anyways, that's going to do it. That's going to do it for value hunting for game week 12. I hope you had a good time. Again, if this is your first time watching, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel. And then also, live before lock, baby. Today's Thursday. Tomorrow, live before lock returns on this channel at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. We will break down the game week 12 slate, all the NBA injury news. We'll use some projections from our friends at Momentum Labs. And as always, we'll give away a rare tier card. So I hope everybody has a great rest of the day. Get out there, grind the marketplace, get those lineups in, and then hopefully you crush the So Rare in-season tournament and we can put some of those prizes right back into our gallery. All right, we'll see you later.